So hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Java Guru Ravi, and I Ravi Khan Sahu welcome you in this new video. So let's get started. So hello everybody, in this video we are going to talk about the interfaces. So first of all, what is an interface? So there are so many changes when you talk about the interfaces in JDK-8, right? So firstly we'll talk about the interfaces before JDK-8, then we'll try to understand what are the changes which are incorporated in interfaces in JDK-8. So first of all, why interfaces were created in Java? So the reason are, first one is कि it is created to support multiple inheritance. So as we have already discussed that in case of Java, a class can inherit only one class. Single inheritance is allowed, multiple inheritance through the classes is not allowed. So what they have provided, okay, they said okay, you can inherit multiple interfaces. So for inheriting multiple interfaces, the classes are permitted and you can inherit as many interfaces as you want. So first reason you can say it is supporting the multiple inheritance. Second reason, what is an interface basically? Interface was pure abstraction. In case of JDK, before JDK 1.8 or JDK 8, interfaces were purely abstract, 100% abstraction. Whereas abstract class is not pure abstraction, because in the abstract class you can have some abstract methods as well as you can have some non-abstract methods also. But in interfaces we can have only abstract methods. It means it was pure abstraction. So let us talk about the interface. Currently we are talking about the interfaces up to JDK-7, right? So up to JDK-7, what we used to have here inside the interfaces, only two things, only two type of things you can have inside the interfaces. One is some data member, right? So up to JDK 1.7, inside the interface you can define some data members. So these data members, like I am defining here int a, so this data member is not a variable. Every data member inside the interface was by default public, static and final. Whether you write or you do not write, it will become public, static and final. It means inside the interfaces only constants are allowed, variables are not allowed, right? It might be possible that I have written just public here, no issue. By default it is static and final. I am not writing anything, still it is by default public, static and final. So whether you write it or not, it will be by default public, static and final. It also means that you cannot make it something different. What I mean to say is, by default it is public. I cannot make it protected. I cannot make it private. If you will write another keyword like private or protected, it will give you compilation error, right? So every data member, whether you mention here or not, it is public, static and final. Second thing that you can define inside the interface is abstract methods, right? So abstract method is a method without the body. So interfaces used to allow you only abstract methods. They were not allowing you to write some methods with the implementation. So interfaces were saying, okay, you can define either the public, static, final constants inside the interface, or you can define some abstract methods. A method without the body, and in the normal class we need to put an abstract keyword here, but the interfaces methods were by default public and abstract. Whether you write it or not, it is by default public and abstract. Similarly, data members were by default public, static and final. Whether you write it or not, data members were public, static and final, and methods were public and abstract. So these are the interfaces up to JDK 7. So what is going to happen here is, you will be definitely inheriting it. So whenever you inherit, so what you are going to receive is some abstract methods. And I have already told you, whenever you are inheriting something, some class, so everything gets inherited except two things. One is private members, second one is constructors, right? So this abstract method will also get inherited in your class. Let us inherit it. Let us suppose I am inheriting this class. Let's say class X, which inherits the interface. So now the question is, will you use the same extends keyword to inherit an interface? So the answer is no. In a class, if you want to inherit this interface here, so the keyword is implements. You have to use the implements keyword to inherit an interface inside a class. Whereas to inherit a class inside a class, you use the extends keyword, right? So we'll write here implements. I'll write here class X implements and the name of the interface test. So this is how you are going to write the implements keyword to inherit some interface. Let's say you want to inherit a couple of more interfaces, so you will write here comma A, comma B, if A and B are other two interfaces. So now I am inheriting three interfaces, test A and B. Let us write here interface A and interface B. I am writing here interface A, something like this, and interface B. Right? So we are using the interface keyword. This is a keyword similar to a class keyword. Class keyword is used to define a class. Interface keyword is used to define an interface. So I am writing here interface A, interface A, interface B, and interface test. So in this class X, I am inheriting now test A and B, all three. All three we have inherited here. So this is multiple inheritance through the interfaces. Now as soon as you inherit this interface here, so everything will be inherited. This data member is also inherited, this abstract method is also inherited. So now what is the result here? If you see here class X, so class X is now receiving one abstract method from the interface test. It means this class X is now having one abstract method. And I have already told you that if a class is having any abstract method, even a single abstract method, then the class will have to be declared abstract. So whenever you inherit any interface, so you have two choices. Either you override all the abstract methods of the interfaces, or you declare your class abstract. Only two options are there, right? So if you want to override that method here, this demo method, so you can do that and your class will become non-abstract. Although after implementing you want to make it abstract, that is allowed, right? But if you want to if you don't want to override it, no issues, but in that case it will be mandatory to declare this class abstract. So let us override it. Let us understand the overriding. So now I am going to override this demo method. So how I will override this? This is again something which is very important. Normally in the class, if you inherit, you override it. So how you will write here? Void demo. If this test is defining some demo method, so we will be overriding like this, void demo and the curly braces to provide the body. But in case of interface, this is compilation error. It will give you a compilation error and your program will not compile. Why? The reason is this demo method. What is the access modifier of this demo method? This demo method, although it is not written here, but interface, everything is by default public. So this method, demo method, is public. But inside the class, is it public? Inside the class, if you don't write any access modifier, then it is package private, or you can say default. So this scope is now within the package only. Now this method is public. Now during the overriding you are restricting its accessibility level. So overriding rule is there that during the overriding you cannot reduce the accessibility level. This is the first rule of overriding. Overriding is redefining the parent class method in the child class with the same name and same signature. You can neither change the name nor you can change the parameters. So in the overloading you change the parameters, but in overriding you don't change the parameters. So same name, same parameter I am writing here, but it is not overriding because during the overriding you cannot reduce the accessibility level. Here accessibility level is public, so here you will have to at least retain this. So during the overriding there are three things you can change apart from the body, and that is again an interview question. The first out of them is access modifier. During the overriding you can enhance the accessibility, right? You cannot reduce it. So you have two options: either retain the same accessibility level whatever is defined in the parent class, or you can increase it. Let's say a function is defined here which is default or protected. So during the overriding you can make it public. Public is increasing the accessibility level, but if you are reducing it, this is a compilation error, right? So what is happening in case of interface? It is already having public access modifier. So public se zyada we don't have anything more than public, so we will have to make it public only. But here in the class it is not by default public, so you have to write here public. If you will not write public here, so it will become package private default. So public to package private, reducing the accessibility level. So it will give you some compilation error trying to assign weaker access privileges. This kind of error if you are receiving in your compiler, it simply means that during the overriding you are restricting the accessibility level of a function, right? So here the first rule of overriding the interface method is you have to write the public explicitly here. This is important point. During the overriding of a method of an interface, you have to explicitly write public over there, otherwise your code will not compile, right? So I will write here public and this code will now compile. So this is your second important. First told here is that implements keyword. Second one is during the overriding you will write the public keyword. Now this code will compile successfully. Now suppose I said okay sir, interface A is also having some abstract method. Let's say here we have a method void A. Now what will happen here? Now we are inheriting test A and B. I am inheriting test A and B. So total how many abstract methods we inherited here in this class X? One from the test, one from A. So total abstract methods inherited in the class test is 2, right? And you have overridden only demo, you have not overridden the method A. It means this class X is still having one abstract method, right? Why abstract method? I am not defining any abstract method. No problem, you are not defining but you are inheriting from there. One you inherited from here and one you inherited from here. So you inherited two abstract methods but you overridden only one. Again this code will say okay, the class X is not abstract and it is not overriding the method A of A. So again you have two choices, either declare your class abstract or override the method A. So again you have the option to override this. So again you will be writing here public void A and you will give some body here, right? So these are the interfaces of JDK-7. Only two things were allowed. One is the public static final data members and second one is public and abstract methods, right? So what happened in the JDK-8? So when Oracle came into the existence with the Java, so they said okay, in the interfaces you can have two different types of methods with the body. It means from JDK-8 onwards, you can have two different types of methods inside the interface which will be having the body also. So till now we were not having any body inside the interfaces method, but in JDK-8 onwards it is allowing you. So let us understand, this is again something which is very important for the interviews, because this is the drastic change you can say in the interfaces. So let us understand what is the two different types of methods. So again, now in the JDK-8 onwards, interfaces can have four different types of things. Two, similar to the JDK-7, public static final data members and public and abstract methods. Plus two different types of methods with the body. So let us write here two different types of methods. Let's say I am writing one method is void test, and I am saying it will be having the body. So yes, implemented methods can be there inside the interfaces now in JDK-8 and later versions. Something like this. So is it allowed here? So the answer is no. This will not compile again. Why? Oracle said ki okay, in the interfaces now you can have two different types of methods which will be having the body, but how you will identify them? So there are two keywords which are supposed to be used here. It means if any method is there inside the interface which is having body, so it will be having one of the two keywords. Either it will be having the keyword default here, or it will be having a keyword static here, right? So either default keyword will be there with the implemented method of your interface, or it will be having the static method. It cannot be having both, right? So inside the interface now you can have some implemented methods. One is called as default method, other is called as static methods. So what is the difference? There are multiple differences and many questions are based on this. So what is the difference? First of all, how will I identify that whether it is a default method or a static method? Simple, look at the method of the interface. First thing is, whatever we are talking is applicable only inside the interfaces. So if a method is having the body, first thing, if it is not having the body, so by default it is abstract method. But if any method is having some body here, it means it must be either qualified with the default keyword or the static keyword. If it is having a static keyword here, so it will be static method, and if it is having a default keyword here, it will be called as a default method. And why these two methods are provided? Because there is basic difference in their nature. We'll be talking about that. So first of all, let us understand what is the static method. So let's say I am putting a keyword here, static, with this method. So now this is an interface static method. What is its access level? Its accessibility level is still by default public. Everything inside the interface is by default public, whether you write or not. Right? So this interface static method is still public. Fine. Now this static method, why Oracle allowed you to write a static method? First and the most important thing is, this static method of interface is never inherited. It is never inherited. And this is the difference between the static method of an interface and static method of a class. The static method of a class is inherited, but static method of an interface is never inherited. Is it clear? So this static method will never be inherited. Means this method is provided by Oracle to create some utility methods. What is utility method? Let's say I have created an interface and I want to provide some method which anybody can use. Anybody can use without inheritance, without object creation. So obviously the interface is there, so object cannot be created. Right? Interfaces are purely abstract, its object cannot be created, and up to JDK-7 it could have only two things, plus one more thing is there, that is nested types, that we'll talk separately. But interfaces can have only two things, static, public static final members and abstract methods, right? So now interfaces cannot be instantiated, it is purely abstract. So instance cannot be created. Can we have the constructor inside the interface? The answer is no. I told you only two things are allowed, nothing else. Constructor, static block, anonymous block, implemented method, all these things are not at all allowed. Only two things were allowed: public static final data members and abstract methods. Then in JDK-8 onwards, two types of implemented methods, static methods and default method, plus nested types, that is separate thing. So static methods of interface is clear. I will be writing static methods when I feel that this is some code which anybody should be allowed to use. Write it as a static method, utility method, anybody can use. Like in math class, there are so many static methods available, you can use it without any kind of instantiation or inheritance. So this is your static method. Second one is default method. This is very important, this is really important. Default method. So default method is provided inside the interfaces which will be inherited. So default method of an interface is a method with the body and it will be actually inherited. So this is something which is useful from the programmer's perspective. Later on I will discuss why default methods are actually created. So default method is, it will be inherited in the classes which are going to inherit it, or interfaces we are going to inherit it. So obviously when it is inherited, so the inherited classes will be having the rights to override it. So again, if you are inheriting it, so if you are happy with this implementation, you can continue with the same. If you want to change it, you will do the overriding. Overriding concept will remain same as in the abstract method. You have to remove this default keyword and you have to put public keyword over there. Why? Because public is an access modifier. This default method is still public. This default is not the access modifier. This is a keyword. Earlier up to JDK 1.7, default keyword was used only one place, inside the switch. JDK 8 onwards, the default keyword is used in two places. One is inside the switch case, second one is inside the interface. Right? So now default keyword is used for two purposes. One, to create a default case, and one, to create a default method inside the interface. This default keyword does not exist with the method header in any class. It exists only inside the interface. So this is your default method. So let us write here default. Now let us, I want to inherit this class, so I'll create a class, my class implements test, and here I will have to, how many methods I will have to override here? Only one. One is compulsory, demo method. Abstract method is compulsory to be overridden. So I will write here, okay, I will have to override this method, public void demo, and I will be writing here and then I want to override this test method. If you, this is optional. Default method is inherited here. If you want to use it directly, you will get this version. If you want to override this, how you will override? So let us write override here. So I will write here public. Simply, public is compulsory to be written with the methods of interface inside the class. I will write here public void test. Right? This is the overriding of this default method. And here you will write whatever you want to print here. Let's say instead of A, I want to print B. So this is how you will override the, you can override the abstract method of an interface and you can override the default method. Can you override the static method of an interface? The answer is no, because static methods are not inherited here, right? So this is your interface. I hope you understood all these concepts. So if you have any query, you can simply write the comment box. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you find this video useful, so please like, subscribe and share with all of your friends so that they can also get benefited. Ravikant Sahu signing off. Thank you.